Broke, the least deranged Dutch person in the Netherlands, joins me. Can this really be true, Eva, that every single transaction over €100 is now going to be recorded and monitored by the state?
Well, if it's up to our Minister of Finance, Sigrid Kaag, that is exactly what is going to happen. Like you said, she wants to monitor every transaction that we spend. So that is basically everything nowadays. We all know that if you go to the grocery store, you end up buying 2 bags of groceries and that costs you 100 euros. So everything that you are spending your money on will be known then by the banks and will be centralized. This information will be centralized and collected into a database that will be accessible for them and the government, I think up to 5 years later. So imagine, that's not just your diet. They won't just know what you buy at the grocery store. They'll know your medical bill. So they'll have information basically into your medical file. They will know what political party you give money to. They will know what you spend your money on a Saturday night. They will know everything about you through the money that you spend. And obviously, you wonder why. Well, our government says we are doing this to combat money launderers. Well, in the society that I live in, I would like to assume that we live in a rule of law, that we have a liberal democracy where the government doesn't treat its own citizens as criminals and that the presumption of innocence exists. Well, this obviously turns that completely around. So there's a presumption of guilt. You are treated as a criminal, and only if the government sees that you don't behave like a criminal, they will let you go. And that's obviously also the way that they basically guilt trip people into doing this, because people who oppose this, they will say to you, well, do you have something to hide?
Yeah. That's always the way, that if you're not guilty, what do you have something to hide? And I take it, when I get these things now, every couple of weeks from people who say the banks in the UK wanted to know for what purpose you're withdrawing 150 or 200 pounds, that there are all kinds of other people who are just going along and saying, oh, yes, well, I was thinking of putting down a deposit on a holiday, or, there's not widespread resistance to this. People are going along with it, Eva.
Yes, and it's pretty much insane. If you would say, hey, you have nothing to hide. Okay, well, why aren't you okay then with the police coming into your house every day? You have nothing to hide, right? It's basically the same thing. You would think that people would never accept that. But then when it's about banks and it's about your banking information, then suddenly it's like, okay, well, I guess I have no argument against that. But we should have plenty of arguments against it. First of all, like I said, in a functioning society, you would think that the presumption of innocence is worth something. You know, we live in a free society still, is what you would like to think. But also, this is very clearly a step towards a monetary system that is surrounded around mass surveillance and control. So if the government knows everything about what you spend your money on, that is only one step ahead from, or away, I would say, from what we discussed last week. And those are the central bank digital currencies. Because 100 euros, come on, that is basically everything nowadays. So, and they also, within this bill, is maybe interesting to mention, they also prohibit cash payments of over 3,000 euros. So they're already cracking down on the cash too. So it's very clear where they want to go. They want to go to central bank digital currencies, a digital coin that they will control. And in the future, they will also control they won't just see what you spend it on, but they will be the ones deciding what you may spend it on.
Well, what I find interesting about that, Eva, is that even on the transactions under 100 euros, that only applies to consumer transactions. So if you want to spend 70 euros at Amazon, the Dutch government will still let you do that. But if I were to say, if you were to lend me 5 euros because I'm a bit short of cash this week, that's not a consumer transaction. And so in theory, that would be something that the Dutch government would use as the right to enter us in their database and monitor us. You can't actually spend under 100 euros in a way that you might choose to. How is this compatible with a free society?
It is not. It is absolutely not. So I hope that this law will get a fair bit of resistance. But so far, it almost seems to be going quietly again. You know, it's the same thing we always see with these people. They pretend that they have a good pretext, that they have a good reason for why they are doing this. And it still seems to me like a lot of people don't quite understand what the problem is with all of this government control and all of this surveillance on your life. You know, it might sound, oh, I really do have nothing to hide. You know, you could think that. You could say, well,
No?
I'm fine. But there comes a point in time where the government decides that you do, because the political party that you want to give money to is not the one that they like, or the food that you want to eat in your private house, the meat that you want to buy at the supermarket is not what they want you to eat. So you always need to think one step ahead. Is this the type of power that I want the government to have? Do I want them to have all of my information in a centralized data bank? I think not. If you want to have any type of privacy at all.
You're absolutely right on that, Eva. By the way, you've got plenty to hide. If they get wind that you're appearing on the Mark Steyn show every week, you are in a heap of trouble. I've got 23 groats buried behind the barn in case you're running low on cash, by the way. We're going to be needing to dig that out very soon.